I think we're all set. I'd like to call to order the Milan Township Planning Commission meeting for December 12th, 2023. The first order of business is pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Thought Matt was going to be here, but he's obviously not yet at this time.
I will move the flowers now.
Okay, 44. Any additions or changes to the agenda? None? Okay. Approval of the October 10th, 2023 meeting minutes. I sent those to you last month. Any additions or corrections to the October 10th meeting minutes? I make a motion that we accept the October 10th, 2023 meeting minutes. Is there a second? All in favor of adopting the October 10th meeting minutes, say aye. Very good. Yes. Let's see. We are going to be discussing the amendments to the solar energy ordinance. I have this is the deck that we're going to be working from. I have 3 copies here. We can make more, so these 3 copies are for 3 of you. And if we need more, Amanda can make additional copies.
Oh, this is it, sorry. Is this an updated one?
Well, it's the one that's what we were going to talk about last month, but we never did.
Most recent one.
Yeah,
this
most
is most
recent one,
recent.
yes.
I have the last one.
Yes.
Anybody else want one while I'm up? Okay. Thank you.
Very good. Oh, Matt's on his way.
Here, I'll get this one back.
No, Matt has this. I have a copy for that. Those copies were for the audience. Okay, excellent. We did not have a meeting in November because we had a lot, we didn't have enough for a quorum. But otherwise, that's all I have to report. Anything from the township board member?
I know Township Board working on a couple lawsuits now. One against the gentleman on Wabash Road for his light.
Nick,
And
would you speak a little louder, please?
one
Thank you.
on a gentleman in Wabash Road for running a junkyard, and one on Ridge Road for running a trucking repair facility. So those 2 are gonna go to, got approved to go to court.
Oh, wow. Okay. That'll keep you busy.
So that's,
I'll keep Marty busy.
that'll probably be starting here soon.
Right.
That's it.
Okay. Excellent. We have public comment, 2 minutes per person. We will have another public comment at the end of the meeting. So anybody have anything that they'd like to talk about? Yes, Tim.
I used to work down at Milan Vault, and then I was always told that they had a 7 o'clock. Warrant, you couldn't make any noise before 7 a.m. So somebody needs to check into that, see if that ordinance still applies. I know it's an industrial, but I mean, they were real strict on making sure there wasn't any noise before 7 a.m. Just because that neighbor's right on the other side of that creek.
Right. That's reasonable. Well, that's something that Tim Doobie is These are enforcement officers.
Yeah, but what, is there a time, a curfew?
I would have to look into it. I know we have a noise ordinance, but I'd have to, I don't know that.
Are they using, also, with them hauling that stuff out, is there a special use permit they gotta have to do that, or is that because it's zone industrial that they can get away with that? Is that something that they need to look into as well? See if that's,
Well, we'd have to see what they're actually doing. They're hauling out. If they're excavating or digging stuff out of the ground and hauling it out, that's one thing. If they're bringing stuff in, processing it, and then hauling it out, that's,
they're bringing it in, parking it there, and then hauling it out. It's not asphalt milling, so I believe.
Mhm.
Like that's, and another person that may wanna get involved is EPA because it's so close to the ditch.
right.
There's no erosion effects.
And I'm sure that's not part of their site plan, that's not part of their initial business.
No, correct.
And so that's a whole new line of business that they should have. Paying the site plan approval.
No, good. Thank you.
So that's something that we'll have to look into. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
As far as Corrigan, what is with their situation as far as, are they going forward or are they gonna have to restart everything again? Is there planning?
They're gonna have to restart everything. Yes, because they're, right now, they've been working with Dave, our engineer, and they have some issues, I guess, with the drainage. But they're going to have to, in effect, start over again. Because they're gonna have to give us new maps, new site plan, new description of what they're going to be doing. So it's basically, they're gonna be starting from square one the next time, once they decide that they're ready to proceed. Or at least from our point of view, it'll be square one.
In the building, is that still gonna be where you ain't gonna approve it until they take it down, or?
That could be part of, that is, that was part of our discussion this past year, and they had agreed to take it down. In a conference, they agreed verbally that they wanted to do something, get rid of that. But, but that's something that would have to be specified in the site plan. Which is something that is, we want, and they know it, and so therefore something's going to happen to that building. Either rebuild it or tear it down. Yes.
Yeah, another question.
Sure.
From my talks with Mr. Doobie, and this is industrial, so this is gonna apply for solar and all that, I would assume, is if they see something, if he sees something that's wrong with it, he cannot go without a complaint. But why is it that, is there any way to be able to give him authority to, on industrial, that, to where they should be held to a higher standard than just the average person that lives here? Because I mean, they are industrial, and if they can get away with a lot of stuff, why is it that you're hitting the local people a lot harder? I guess that would be my thing is,
Well, like you said,
an ordinance officer should be able to take and go in on a commercial property, industrial property, and say, I would think,
right.
there's something wrong, and if you can't see that from the road, you're pretty.
Like you mentioned, we operate in a complaint basis township where somebody has to complain before Tim will go and investigate it. Now, obviously, sometimes he might see something. I would hope that if he sees something, whether it's some residential property or industrial or whatever, that, if he sees something that is wrong, he can always go to Mark and discuss it with him, and Mark can be the one to file the complaint, or to issue issue the complaint and then have Tim pursue it. So I would hope that Tim would have that strategy versus waiting for somebody to notice it. And because a lot of times you might not notice that something is wrong. You might not think something is wrong, even though you notice it, just because you're not aware of the rules and regulations where Tim would. And so therefore you brush it off as no big deal. And anyway, I'm trying to say is that hopefully Tim would talk to Mark, and Mark would then authorize him to pursue that. Yeah. That's I would hope that I can mention that to Mark, given that, again, I'm sure he has that already. Or Amanda will tell him, right?
Wait, Amanda, I'll tell you what.
Wouldn't that require something, a change in the ordinance to be approved?
What?
To give Mr. Doobie the authority to act on something without a resident complaining or bringing it to the board's attention? Wouldn't that be a requirement to change it?
Well, we don't have, it's not in the ordinance. There's nothing that is in the ordinance that restricts Tim from pursuing something.
I think that was just a practice that has been done just for many years. Because everybody's kind of laid back in the country and,
Exactly.
and so I think that it's just been done that way. It was never written that it had to be done that way, I don't
Correct.
believe.
That is correct. And
So,
it's common practice for him not to go around sticking his nose in everybody's business. That was the whole point. And but that, like I said, that doesn't prevent him from talking to Mark or somebody else, and then they basically issue the complaint or, and pursue it. So, anybody else have a comment? Anything?
I do, but hold on a second. Sorry. Please hold.
Okay.
She's complicated.
All right, I'm not sure.
Don, how long have you been working here? How long have you been on this planning commission?
35 years.
35 years. Ooh,
No, 35.
I don't wanna.
September 22nd, 1988. So,
Thank you very much for your service
oh, you
for
really.
this planning commission. And
Wow.
I invite and encourage everybody to stay for a piece of cake afterwards.
Well, thank you. That it looks like a very good. Mistake. Yes.
Oh, I really hope you like chocolate, because the only other cake that they had, it was like pink, but it was like a salmony pink, and it just didn't look very appetizing, so I went
All
with
I
the
can say is
chocolate.
who doesn't like chocolate?
actually, I know a lot of people that don't, and yes, it's very scary, but
Well, thank you.
you're
Thank
very
you, I
welcome.
appreciate it. Yes, September 22nd of 1988. I was an activist in the township to try to protect the township from the super collider that was being proposed for Michigan. And back in the 1987-88 timeframe. And so in 88, it was given to Texas, which the super collider is not down there in Texas, it was partially built, but now it's a mushroom farm. And, but, so, at, once that was over with, the township, board decided that they needed somebody on the planning commission, and they thought of me for some reason. And, so I went to my first meeting, and, it was the chairman of the planning commission that was, leaving. And, so they, said, well, we need a new chairman, and so they appointed me as chairman, even though I knew nothing. I mean, I was totally green. And the reason they said that I was good for that job was because I worked at Ford in Dearborn, and everybody else worked, had business ties with everybody else in the township. And so I wouldn't have any conflict of interest, so to speak. And that was, like I said, 35 years and 3 months ago. And so it was
Well, that's
a lot, it was,
amazing.
it's been
thank
a very
you.
interesting time.
Thank you for your service. It's John's last planning commission meeting.
Right.
So,
At the end of the month, my term is up, and I decided to do other things. So,
well, enjoy it.
okay, very good. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Oh, one thing I want to at this time hand out. This is for you guys to look at over. This is a summary. Every year, at the end of the year, or I should say, beginning of next year, the planning commission has to give the township board a summary of what we did during the year. And this is a summary of our meeting minutes. And so I'll be finalizing it this next couple of weeks, and then the new chairman next month can give it to the board for the as a to fulfill the requirement. One of the things I have done is I've listed a number of anticipated activities for the planning commission in 2024 on the back of the page. And we have a lot of work to do next year. The planning commission has a lot of work to do. So, okay, so any other questions from or comments? Very good. Okay, we have Dave, do you want to, I think everybody here knows that the state has instituted some new regulations and procedures for renewable energy projects. And you're very familiar with our ordinance and amendments we plan on implementing. Do you want to make it, do you have any comments about the new regulations and how they work with, how they affect our ordinance?
Yeah, what it comes down to is that the governor did sign the agreement to that pretty much takes away most of the township's ability to regulate solar power and wind power. The developer now may, at their discretion, within a year, it doesn't kick in until next year, can go to the state and get a permit and bypass the township. And the township does have a right to still have an ordinance, but the ordinance can be more difficult than what is being brought from the state. So the $1 million question is, what are they bringing from the state? They haven't wrote it yet. They had a meeting today up in Lansing with a bunch of attorneys that people were invited to listen to how the state would like to move forward with solar and wind energy within the state and how it will relate to the townships. I don't have a summary of what happened today in Lansing, but the way I understand it, Mark will be going to another one, or going to one in, I think, next week in Ann Arbor, where they're going to try to summarize what they talked about up in Lansing this week. again, what their critical thing was is that they felt that there was too many townships out there, if you probably already know this, but there were too many townships out there that were pushing back from allowing people to put solar panels pretty much anywhere. And we're zoning them out of their townships in general. And they didn't feel that that was, the legislature didn't feel that that was the correct thing to do for the state of Michigan. So that's where they're at now. And so I talked to John briefly about the, what's going on. And we can go around and around with this ordinance, but we just might be just rearranging the chairs on the Titanic here. What's more important is that we should, as a township, make it so it's equal to what they have at the state, so at least you have a say or an input in the conversation, where it's gonna, where all this is gonna go, who's gonna be doing it. If you're more strict than the state, then you don't have a say in it, because that's all the producer has to do, or the developer, is that here's our ordinance, look, it's more strict than you. And then the commission, it's a 3-person commission, it's supposed to be independent. It's appointed by the governor. Is supposed to then decide if that person should get a permit or not, but there's no reason why they shouldn't, unless they feel that the township has an ordinance that's consistent with what the state wants. And like a good example is one of the things that was briefly brought up on the state was, if you want solar panels, and I'll use solar panels because we don't have the wind energy situation occurring in this area. Your ordinance says you have to be 100 feet away from the property. Well, they're talking about, you're showing a prejudice to that, because if there was no other industrial person that came in, you're only requiring 25 feet. So you can't be any more restrictive than what you would have done anyways. And that goes with anything though, that's industrial, agricultural, commercial. So right off the bat, the person could look at it and say, well, you guys are asking for 100 feet or 500 feet away. That's more restrictive than what's normal. So I'm just gonna go get it up in Lansing and just let you know, oh, by the way, we're going to do this. They are required to, or they will be required to pay for and organize a public hearing, so that people in the township know that that is coming in. But as of right now, I don't know any way that you would be able to legally, at this time, stop it. There are mumblings out there now, people trying to slow this thing down or put some more thought into it, or give the townships a little bit back with some authority, because it does affect your township. It's not only this township, it's a lot of townships that are having the same problem. And make a long story short, that's where it's at now. That there will be, somebody will file a suit, because it seems to be taking a lot of the local responsibilities away from planning commission and township boards and city officials, and giving it to a 3-panel team up in Lansing. Keep in mind too, your town, I'm sorry, your representatives voted against it, just so you know, if you didn't know that. But the ones that were for it are ones in the urban areas, and you're just farmland, so you don't have as much to say as if you lived in one of the urban areas, apparently. That's where it stands. More details to come though, I'm sure, when it comes to finalizing it, what's really going to happen. It takes a year, so this isn't going to be going into effect until late next year. But there's going to be a lot of back and forth. And as of right now, they do not have any legal written, this is what we expect from somebody that comes to us getting a permit. Like you have an ordinance. They don't have anything set up yet. They're still working on that.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
So, yes, Tim.
Is there anybody doing a state referendum against this? So, go to the whole state?
That's a good question. There's rumblings out there, but the only way to check is probably just search the internet, see if there's something going on. There are several state representatives and senators that are really quite opposed to this. But at the same token, they're going to have some kind of support. Right now, they don't have it.
We'll have to wait and see.
Have to wait and see, right? Or even just start looking on the internet, see if there is a referendum out there. Somebody's doing it, moving forward with.
Question, I'm sorry,
Sure, go ahead.
moving forward with we're gonna vote on this tonight, right?
No, we're, tonight, because we did not have a meeting in November, tonight is we're going to go through the amendments, make sure that the language is what we want. And in other words, finalize it, so that then in next, maybe in January or whatever, have a public hearing to, get public comment and pass it.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought that's what we did in October, is we went line by line through
We
everything.
did, but that was to just get everybody on the same page and to get a semi-final wording of it. And now we're gonna finalize it so that
Okay,
we can have a clean document
Okay.
to present to the township, at the public hearing.
so I know this calls for speculation, but what would your thoughts be on approving an ordinance right now without knowing? I mean, it sounds like even if we did all agree on this, we had our public hearing in January,
Right.
we voted on it, it sounds like it's
We're gonna be-
setbacks, noise, screening, everything is just gonna be up to the whim of the state in the future.
That's the direction it's going now, but I somewhat agree with John, the fact that we should at least have something in writing, because if a referendum does come out there, you don't want to be hanging out there without anything ready, just in case it falls apart.
Okay.
And it might fall apart, you don't know. Lansing right now it won't, but you know what, the elections are coming up in 2024, we'll see what happens there, but, you should have something in place. The good news is that you still have a moratorium. I think your moratorium is until June, if I recall. So we don't have to push this through. I think the township board passed a moratorium here in your township of any type of solar panels or wind energy going in. So you have until that time to have something more in place, because you currently have one in place. But this one is updating it.
Mhm.
And it never hurts to have it in place and then see what the state comes
Okay.
back with. And we can always make the adjustments accordingly when the state brings their new information and comes back with it.
Was this the vote that was right across party lines, 50-50,
Party lines,
and the governor was the final say?
yeah. It was that tight, yeah.
Has there been any rumblings of the townships putting together a coalition of townships to go up and do some fighting?
I haven't heard any other townships getting together. There were quite a few people that actually went up there and was very vocal about it, but it didn't do any good.
It was a done deal. I was there.
Oh, were you? Okay.
It was pushed in before 4 Democrats were gonna leave.
They
Yeah.
didn't even know what they were doing. They just knew they had to pass this.
And what was really critical here in the last couple of months, and of course, we're talking politics here, but
Yeah.
because several of the state representatives moved up into like the city of Warren as a mayor now.
Went to
They
mayor.
lost their
Right.
majority.
Yeah.
And so instead of losing their majority, they decided to recess the house then.
And move up sorry.
You're right. So that stopped any chance of, okay, let's rescind some of this garbage that was just passed or what they feel is garbage. And let's move forward with some new let's change things right now, because they're gonna have the ability to have the majority. But it never occurred because they actually closed down prior to that opportunity occurring.
So who actually is writing the state ordinance then? Those three people? The three energy?
The way I
people?
understand it is they're involved, yes, but it's actually it's the attorneys,
team?
the attorneys up in that work for the state that are trying to put it together. And that's a good question too, because if it's really gonna be for the people, shouldn't they have a committee for people? And I'm kind of soapboxing right now, but I think that if they're gonna be putting literally a state ordinance together, because this is gonna be a state ordinance now, it's not gonna be an individual ordinance, to make sure that everybody's on the same page and the requirements and the good and the bad and the different about it. But nothing's going on now, because they're all on vacation. So if you don't agree with what's going on up there, it never hurts to call and ask, or at least express an opinion.
So if they come up with something in 6 months or so, then we modify our ordinance to kind of align with theirs?
We can do that.
Somewhat.
And then we can at least have the opportunity to have a say in it one way or the other, maybe. And I only say maybe.
Right.
Let's be frank, if I was a developer and I had a choice between going in front of a local board or just going up there and get a permit, what would I really do?
Right.
But I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's like whatever's easier. And just so you know too, which is kind of a sidebar, there was an attempt to do the same thing for mining operations, quarry operations, because there's a lot of townships that were putting heavy restrictions on mining, whether it's sand, gravel, rock, and that type of thing. But that was put on the back burner to push this through, just so you know. So I guess my point being, if somebody shows up and says, hey, I found some clay, or I found some sand over on Ridge Road in your township, I think I'm gonna do sort of mining company. And if they would have passed that, you would have had them say on it.
Because the price of sand went from $1 to $4 in 2 years. Because of supply
Yeah,
and the amount of construction that was going on in the metro Detroit area.
there's a lot of ARPA money that was being spent out there. Yeah, so, and the problem with mining in general is you'd love to say, I want mining over here. Well, there's nothing to mine over there. So you have to mine where it is. You can't mine where you want it. And that's the difficulty in mining operations.
Well, it's the same thing as with oil wells.
Right. Yeah, you can try wildcatting, but if it's not there, it's not there.
I mean, the state regulates that. It tells-
That's the direction they're going. They're saying these solar energy power, these solar panels as well as the windmills or the wind turbines are considered a public utility in some respects, and they look at it that way.
So with all that in mind, I think it would be a good idea to review these amendments and put it through a public hearing and see if the board wants to implement them. And then, like I said, we have an ordinance already that's in place, but this just makes it a little bit more robust.
I'd also recommend that we don't really push the public hearing until we get a better understanding where Lansing's going.
That's fine.
Because we wouldn't be able to tell the public this is gonna be gospel, because we don't know. It's a good idea to get the ordinance ready. I'm not taking that away at all the time. I'm just saying that maybe we don't have to hurry up and push it for January or something like that, so we find out what's really going on.
That's a strategy that we can utilize to see how the winds are blowing, so to speak. So, then in January, you guys can talk about something else, maybe. So, okay, I've handed out the deck that has all the adds and deletion amendments, as well as the suggestions from our attorney, as well as from Dave, our engineer. And the items that are shaded in gray are from Dave. The ones that are shaded in yellow are from our attorney. And the ones that don't have any shading or just red or crossed out are things that we thought of. So, okay. One of the things that Dave suggested was not to restrict this to large solar energy systems, just designate this as solar energy systems. So that would then apply to it, to basically any kind of commercial project. And I have no problems with that. So you can see that in the under definitions, large solar has been crossed out, and there's one utility scale. So in the first sentence, is utility scale solar energy system large should come out of that system where the primary use of the land is to generate electrical energy through the use of photovoltaic devices in order to convert sunlight into electrical energy. for the off-site sale, delivery, and consumption of the generated energy. So this ordinance would not affect somebody wanting to put solar panels on their house or in their backyard. So if your neighbor wanted to have solar panels for their home, this ordinance would not apply to them. So, any comments about this first paragraph? Okay, that's under definitions. Since we're in Article 2 definitions, Dave also mentioned, suggested in the back of this deck, on page 9 and 10, there's a list of definitions for various words, and that Dave was suggesting that we add to the list of definitions, and we can, because these are specific to the solar ordinance. These definitions could be in as part of this ordinance rather than as part of Article 2. And Dave, where did most of these definitions come from?
It came from actually primarily the discussions that are going on with solar panel companies. And not only other townships, but actually with the state too, about, these are, I don't want to call them buzzwords, but these are words that are, if somebody does show up in the township, I believe the township should be familiar with and a better understanding it. So if somebody would say that they want to have theirs as a polluter or as a pollinator habitat, that means nothing to you right now, because prior to that, you didn't have a definition of what that meant. But that'd be like one of the definitions. Is, okay, now we understand what you're trying to do, instead of having to go to school on somebody that wants to do something within your township. So a lot of them came from that. Like I said, other townships are in the state. Just to make sure that we understand the words that are going to be or are being used in this industry.
And some of these actually could be in Article 2, which would be a general list of definitions versus specifically for solar. For example, wildlife-friendly fencing, weeds, and like you were saying, pollinator habitat. Those are things that could be useful for other other uses or discussions rather than just plain.
And a discussion like wildlife-friendly fencing has come up before, because if you put on a large panel up and then the township will require 6-foot-high fences, but we all know that the deer herds are going through these properties on a pretty consistent basis. How are you just stopping that then? Are you stopping that wildlife herd from going through? And these help define better through the township what they can do to help.
Right.
They don't keep the deer moving through or whatever they want to do. I'm using that as an example. So the simple answer is yes, John, you could use them either in Article 2 or specific here with the solar, and we can next discussion.
Right.
Further discussion on that.
Like I said, some of these items like dual use, pollinator habitat, conservation cover. Weeds and wildlife friendly fencing could easily go into Article 2. Doesn't really matter whether they're in Article 2 or here, but you know, Article 2 is more for the whole entire ordinance, where if you're looking at something for solar, the solar items would be more appropriate in that ordinance. So what I'll do is when I re-type this, I'll put some of these designated for Article 2 and others for within this, within 1327. Okay, now we're getting to the actual ordinance part, bottom of page 1. Page, I'm just gonna go through and mention I'm not gonna read this, that'll take way too long and be too boring. So if you see something, speak up, and, so that, we can talk about it. So, the title large comes out,
Paragraph there, large.
in
comes out
in
too.
the paragraph A, there's, large,
That comes out.
that should come out. Thank you. And,
The word large comes out in paragraph A underneath 1327.
yes, see, installation, operation, repair, decommissioning, and removal of solar energy systems. And, I'm not sure why SES is struck out. Because it should be,
That's the first time it's used.
yeah, yes, that's the first time it's
If
used.
it's first time you usually stay in there, then
Yes.
Right, so why, I don't understand,
it's possible that was picked up because we put SES in there and the software picked it up and said, oh, that's right, you want to get rid of that.
right, so.
We just shouldn't have got rid of it the first time.
Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why we're doing this.
Right.
So, okay, as a special use approval, in existing I-1, I-2 districts as of January 1st, 2023. Well, now we could make that 2024, but doesn't matter. There's no difference. Page 2. Okay, okay, so in other words, instead of saying solar energy systems all over the place, we say SES.
Yeah, there's a lot of them in there.
So. Okay, properties enrolled in PA 116 Farmland Development Rights Program per the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, MDARD, may be permitted to participate in solar energy development subject to MDARD policy requirements. Properties that are not enrolled in PA 116 program will be required to comply with MDARD standards to return the land to pre-existing conditions.
I have a question at the very top of that page.
Oh, sure.
Substations was, has a line through it. Where is substations talked about in the document? We got rid of it, but I don't see where we talked about it again. The very top.
Yes, I see that.
I'm not sure why we could leave it.
Okay, we took that, okay, it says the sentence is electric collector lines and interconnection, transmission or distribution lines that are affiliated and necessary for solar energy systems shall be permitted in any zoning district as an accessory use as provided in Article 5. And we don't want substations.
So we put in Article 5, the substations in Article 5.
No, what we're doing is we're saying that we don't want substations in the township. That's, in other words, you can have a collector lines, you can have interconnection, transmission, or distribution lines within the township, but you can't have a substation in the township. So that's because this first paragraph is basically saying what is the location discussion. You know, the location of those solar energy systems in I-1, I-2 districts, and then these other things can be within any place else in the township, because they cross zoning districts, but we don't want substations in here. Okay. C, solar energy system. And then now C is the site plan drawing and supporting materials. In other words, what a site plan should have that may be in addition to or what's required from Article 11, which is our site plan ordinance. So let's see. Names and contact information of persons responsible for the operation, construction, and management of the solar energy system. Should be as part of the site plan. Map showing the ownership and location of all surrounding land uses and houses within 1,000 feet of the boundaries. That 1,000 feet is arbitrary. And okay, then let's see, Dave corrected the elevation. This,
It might seem simple, but if we're using NAVD 88, that's what's standard for GPS, as well as any kind of GIS system that the county and the state uses, so you can actually take their map, drop it right onto your place, and you know exactly where it is. That's a critical thing there.
right. Okay, number 9, a map detailing the setbacks from the solar arrays to all existing and proposed structures within 500 feet of the property lines. So in other words, they have to show within 500 feet of the property lines, they have to show what is there on both sides of the property lines, whether it's inside the solar property or outside the solar property. So in other words, they have to show them where the neighbors are. Number 10 is land elevations and proposed structures and screening have to be shown on the site plan with 1-foot contours. Let's see, number 12 is have to have a emergency response plans and public safety and access during the construction operation. Let's see what else. Number 14, you have to include a photometric plan. That's basically just a word correction. 15, detailed projections for water usage and the water sources to be used. So in other words, they have to tell us where they're going to get their water to clean the panels and do whatever they need to do. Also, that 16 is field drain tile schematics shall be provided. In other words, where are all the drain tiles?
Can we say on 16, existing and proposed?
Sure. So existing,
Is there a way that they can, I mean, whenever farmer drops tile in, I mean, that's not recorded legally with anybody, is it?
It's not recorded legally, but the farmers know where it's at.
And so, I mean, are we just gonna ask the landowners to draw out where they think they put their tile in?
More than likely, it'd be the developer going to the farmer and saying, where are they?
Okay.
And the simple answer would be yeah. The key thing of that is that you don't want to cut into the tile.
Mhm.
Now you're going to start backing up water and possibly making a wetland or that type of thing, or
Yeah.
flooding a neighbor.
Yeah.
The newer ones are all on GPS. So,
okay, so D is the application escrow account. This is a escrow account that is established when they make the application, and it's for expenses that the township might incur, that the developer will pay for. And so we established requesting $100,000 or an amount that is deemed reasonable to be reasonable by the township board in order to cover all reasonable costs associated with the project review. Because at this time, the application process is where we do the site plan, the review of the project, everything that is occurs before construction starts.
Just so you know too, it's part of the law that we're talking about in Lansing. Because we're talking about the finances, and we're primarily worried about not only the beginning of it, but the end of it, decommissioning of it. And the decommissioning plan includes a financial assurance in the form of a bond, like we're talking about your letter of credit. The financial assurance will be posted in increments as follows. Now, this is coming from the Lansing. 25% at the start of full commercial operation, 50% at the start of the 5th year of commercial operation, and 100% by the 10th year. So they're not, the state isn't going in the direction of, I want $100,000 now. They're going in the direction, I want a percentage, 1st year, 5th year, 10th year. So we'll have to have that wherewithal when the new law actually, or when the new requirements come up. We'll leave this here for now, because what you're doing here also is you're filling in a hole, you're filling in a gap. Everything that we're talking about in Lansing, it goes to public commission, is 50 watts or greater. So if somebody comes in with something 40 watts, you have to have something prepared for those people to come in. And that's what you're doing right now.
Right.
Okay.
Ironically, once the thing is built, I mean, fully built, the decommissioning cost is going to be the same at day one versus 10 years down the road, except for inflation. But, well, like you were saying, they only have to have 25% at day one in their bank. And, so somebody's on the hook for the other 75% if on day two, they go belly up.
You're right.
And so, which is
Not good.
scary.
I don't know why they don't do it per acre like they do with the landfills and other projects. It's an acre, every acre so much money. And you're dealing with hundreds of acres or thousands of acres.
To read some of these laws that come out of Lansing, they don't use the people that have been on the, the boots on the ground. They just kind of come up with things that they think is going to work. So a person living in a condominium in Ann Arbor isn't thinking about that farmer in Milan. They're just thinking, well, this will work for the guys. This should make it work.
Sounds reasonable to him.
Sounds reasonable.
A lot of young people coming fresh out of the shoot.
Right.
Right. So. Okay. So, then we added that the escrow account will be maintained as a non-interest bearing account and must continue to be replenished while the solar project is in operation. The township may draw from the escrow account to pay any costs incurred in enforcing this ordinance or the special use agreement with respect to this solar energy system, including legal fees and expenses. Let's see. Then down end of the paragraph, any funds remaining that exceed the township's actual costs after the application is denied or after the solar energy system is decommissioned shall be returned within 90 days to the applicant. Okay, then we had Michigan instead of county building. And then F, which is certified solar components. We added solar panels installed must be certified as being compliant with the Environmental Protection Agency's toxicity characteristics leaching procedure and not classified as hazardous waste. Solar panels are to be manufactured within the United States of America.
Thank you. Typo, electronic testing labs under turbine and F should be GTL instead of EIL.
Oh. Thank you. Okay, page 4. G, height. We added inverters as one of the items. Okay, well, let's see. So the maximum height of solar collector devices, components, buildings of the energy system, excluding substations, inverters, and electrical transmission, shall not exceed 12 feet. Okay, and substations, inverters, and electrical transmission shall not exceed 20 feet.
I thought we weren't.
Substations got to come out, right?
Yeah, we don't want a substation.
Okay,
Is there a reason inverters are allowed to be so high?
just,
I mean, I'm not an engineer, but I thought those were just components that could,
I don't know how high they are, but if I remember from what I've seen on my visitations, they're not, they might be 12 feet at most, generally. I don't remember seeing anything that it would be 20 feet. But,
Your, just so you know, so your 12-foot maximum solar array height of 12 feet might be one of the things that the state comes back at you, because they've got it in writing that they can have a maximum of 25 feet. So,
Double stack.
double portrait, I mean.
I don't know where they're coming from on that logic, but, it's just information you need to know. It may or may not end up that way, again, because we don't have the true rules. I'm just reading it from a law that was
right.
passed.
Well, these numbers that we have here were one number heights that were
Suggested.
suggested by by Apex developer.
Okay,
So,
we may have other developers that we have to put in consideration.
right,
But again, we'll pay attention to what Michigan tells us.
exactly, yes. So, okay, so in the fifth line, substations coming out. And the second line, substation. Okay. H, setbacks. Setback distances are defined as the distance from either the property line or road right of way to the solar panels. The minimum setback distance of 300 feet from all property boundaries of the solar energy system and 50 feet from existing public roads and railroad right of ways shall be required for all buildings and solar arrays. Setbacks may be modified to mitigate noise, visual, and glare impacts or to provide for designated road or utility corridors as identified through the special approval process.
My question about that is, when can they be modified and who's modifying?
We would be. It would be, they would, during the special approval process, that's when, they give us their plans and we sit down with them and they say, well, we need this and this and this different than from what the ordinance says. And so it'd be during our review of their special approval, special use approval request and the setback site plans. So it would be, and then also the township board would have to agree. So when I say we, I'm saying the planning commission and the township board. That's the we. So yes, it'd be part of our negotiations with them. Okay, lot coverage. J is security fencing, 7 feet in height. Use of razor or barbed wire, electrified fences, spikes, and similar security materials shall be prohibited. Fencing shall be maintained in good repair. K, landscaping and screening. Let's see. In number 2, we added, substituted, okay. Screening buffer shall be composed of non-invasive native shrubs and trees. At the time of planting, trees shall be a minimum of 8 feet in height and planted in staggered rows exterior to the perimeter fencing. The screening plan shall have the goal to utilize a diverse tree and vegetative habitat to encourage desirable insects and wildlife along with providing a visual barrier. The Plan Commission may modify the screening requirements upon request from adjacent or participating property owners.
Let's say non-participating. Non-participating.
Those are the ones that are adjacent.
Pardon me?
The ones that are adjacent are probably the non-participating.
Right.
If you're next door, you're not really participating. You'll have a say.
Adjacent would be somebody outside the solar project. Somebody across the road or across the property line would be adjacent. Where the participating property owners are inside.
They're the ones that got the contract, right?
Right.
They're getting paid to look at it. So what about the people that are not being paid?
That's what,
That's what
those are the
adjacent?
adjacent people.
Okay.
Because they wouldn't be participating because they're outside. They're outside looking in. So,
Okay.
okay, and then we took out, then we said all unhealthy and dead material shall be replaced by the adjacent applicant within 1 year of the, or the next appropriate planting period, whichever occurs first, with light vegetation of equal height of the existing planting. Should that be planting or should that be landscaping? With light vegetation of equal height of the existing. Landscaping, big better word?
Well, it's actually defining the native shrub tree that we talked about earlier. Previous paragraph. Planting is an individual, in other words, a tree or a bush.
Right,
If you want to say landscape, that's fine, that's probably consistent.
okay, leave it. Number 3, require annual inspection by an approved arborist of the vegetation screening regarding health and management. An annual report shall be submitted to the township. And 4,
So we're gonna get an arborist to come in?
sure,
Takes away the guessing from the planning commission or the township board. Is that, is that tree dead? I don't know, is it dead? Yeah, it looks dead to me. Well, it doesn't look dead to me. Arborist will tell us.
also provide somebody who's, you could say independent, more independent than somebody who's.
Dead tree, dead tree.
No.
60% dead.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Number 4, if the applicant is unable to plant during the installation period, the applicant will deposit with the township treasurer a letter of credit surety corporate guarantee for an amount equal to 1.5 times the cost of planting deficiencies, as determined by the township landscape consultant. That's something we have to put in the contract. We have to hire somebody. Not- we're not-
It could be the arborist.
Yeah.
It'd be something as needed basis.
Right. Because, I mean, we're certainly not going to just designate, okay, you're not going to be one to
You
inspect
know anything about it,
all the
yeah.
plans, you know?
You're gonna get my bill in the mail.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, it's somebody, these guys are arborists or the landscape consultant, somebody that we're going to hire and at the, and that's at the expense of the applicant. That's part of the,
Oh.
Expenses,
Township.
so the township will pay for it. Okay, number 5, ground cover. Solar energy system shall include the installation of perennial ground cover vegetation maintained for the duration of operation until the site is decommissioned. Plantings shall include non-invasive or native grasses as well as pollinator plantings. The applicant shall include a ground cover vegetation establishment and management plan consistent with the PA 116 guidelines as part of the site plan. 6, failure to install. The township may use funds from the maintenance escrow account to repair or maintain the screening vegetation. In other words, if for some reason the applicant isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing, besides us taking them to court or whatever, we can use the escrow account to and hire people to maintain the vegetation. But the problem is for them is that if they don't maintain it or whatever, that's they're violating the special use approval.
There it is.
You know, and so when they violate that, we can shut them down. You know,
Maybe, it all depends on what
supposedly.
the state says.
Anyway, so that's, okay, silence, yeah, noise, 45 decibels,
Just so you know, the state law, or the state wrote 55.
okay. During the site plan review, the developer will certify that the equipment will be able to meet this requirement. That shouldn't be difficult. And no light shall leave the site, no solar energy system shall produce glare as defined by this ordinance that causes impact on any adjacent lot or causes a danger or risk to motorists on the roadway. The applicant shall provide lighting and glare analysis to demonstrate compliance with this standard. Drainage. During construction of the solar project, care should be taken as to not damage natural drainage patterns. Drain tiles on the solar energy system site rendered functioning directly as a result of construction or operation of the solar energy system will be replaced or repaired so as not to create any drainage changes or issues on the solar energy system site or on adjacent and surrounding properties. After construction is completed, field drain tiles are to be inspected and repaired in order to certify that the drain tiles are functioning. Stormwater runoff analysis may be required per planning commission direction. Any damage to field tiles during the construction operation or decommissioning shall be repaired within 3 months at the cost of the project owner. P, water usage and sourcing. No new wells will be allowed within the solar energy system boundaries. For on-site water usage, water shall be supplied from off-site locations. Took out this is distribution, transmission, interconnection. So we took out substations. We have inverters shall be located and maintained. Interconnections from the solar arrays to any electrical inverters shall be located and maintained on the ground inside the solar energy system. Except
We
areas
didn't
where-
talk about that very much. What are we talking about having an inverter underground?
not the inverter, but the connections to it. All collection lines and interconnections from the solar arrays to
Okay,
any
so it's a buried,
electrical
it's buried systems, what you're saying. Electrical buried. Okay.
inverters shall be located and maintained underground inside the system, except in areas where technical or physical constraints make it impossible, as confirmed by the township engineer, to install the equipment above ground. This requirement includes transmission lines meant to connect the project substation to off-site location, local transmission systems. Um, Substations.
Yeah.
Uh, It probably
But
should
it
be,
says to an off-site transmission system,
I think,
connect to the project substation. Don't say where it's gonna be.
includes transmission lines meant to connect the project. Why don't we just take substation out of there?
Yeah, you can just say
So it's a, in other
Yeah.
words, we would say that the requirement
to the project.
includes
To off-site.
transmission lines meant to connect the project to the off-site
Yeah.
local transmission system. So however they're going to. Like. Are abandonment and decommissioning. The owner of the SES. And the reason we say owner is because the applicant may not be the owner,
Mhm.
so. And the owner is the one that's responsible. Shall perform decommissioning and removal of the solar energy system and all of its components. Prior to decommissioning, each landowner may petition the township for approval to keep some or all of the non-solar components or infrastructure. A detailed statement will be presented to the planning commission for their review and recommendation to the township board. The approved request will be added to the decommissioning plan. This request may be submitted at any time prior to decommissioning. The applicant shall prepare a decommissioning plan and submit it to the planning commission for their review and recommendation prior to the township board's approval of the special use approval. So in other words, the decommissioning plan, how they're going to decommission it, is going to be presented to us and agreed to before we approve their special use. So now we're way at the beginning. Under this plan, all structures, concrete, piping facilities, and other project-related materials above ground and below grade shall be removed off-site for disposal. For MDR standards, this land must be able to be returned to agricultural use following the end of the solar development agreement, or if and or when the solar development is decommissioned for any reason. The ground must be restored to its original condition and topography within 365 days of abandonment or decommissioning.
So John, did you say that the approval request will be added to the decommissioning plan? This request may be submitted anytime prior to decommissioning.
Right, in other words, yeah, the decommissioning plan will be presented and we'll all agree to it before construction begins. And so that, so then they build the thing and and they're generating electricity for 10 years, 20 years. And then they say, okay, we're done, we're decommissioning it. Well, anytime before they start the decommissioning, one of the property owners could come in and say, hey, I want to keep the fencing that's around my
Yeah,
property.
that's how this reads, but I thought you said it had to be upfront.
No, just from the applicant.
The applicant has to provide a decommissioning plan, how he's going to decommission it
Okay.
beforehand. Now, this petition from the landowner would be a addendum to the decommissioning plan, saying, okay, yeah, you were planning on taking all this fencing out, but now I want to keep some of it. And then we would have the final approval about whether to allow him to keep it. Even though the property owner wants to keep the fencing, let's say, we could say, yeah, we don't want you to keep the fencing. So, and obviously we'll have to have some kind of rationale for it.
They need to get almost sticky with that because they say put it back to original. You know, an original would be farm crop ground without fencing. or
And the farm, and
construction.
the farming, the property has to go back to the original condition, and which it says here, has to go back to the original condition and topography that it was beforehand. But let's say, you know, which can happen, but you know, you got a 40-acre piece of property and you have fencing along the road or whatever, or around the property, and you as the owner say, okay, I want to keep the fences, you know, and, you know, you should be, you know, for whatever reason, you know, it's your property. And so, I mean, it's sort of like, why tear out the fences? Let's say you want fence.
Okay.
Obviously you want the
I get
fences,
it.
why tear them out just to have you spend money to put them back in? So to speak.
But they're 30 years. That's
Right. So,
Moving
No,
on,
so,
moving on.
what we're trying to do is give the property owners some flexibility on stuff that could normally be there, like landscaping. I mean, right now, this says that even the trees should come out. You know, But,
yeah,
you know,
I believe in what it says, and then it should go back to original. It should be-
well, see,
But
and yes, and that's what it does, and the decommissioning plan will set that up to put it back to the original condition. But then later in time, if the property owner says, well, I like those trees, I like that fence, you know, I want to keep it, they should have a opportunity to keep it. Now, you know, obviously, you know, they can't say, I want to keep those solar panels, but because they can only ask for non-solar things that you left.
Okay, so any structures that are on there, they could.
Well, a structure, let's say it's a garage was put on the
I'm
property.
just asking.
Right, I mean, let's say a garage was put on the property, they can ask to keep that.
Okay.
Now, again, all of their request has to be approved by the township board. So let's say there was a garage on the property, but it was in a location it shouldn't be there, you know. Then the township board could say, no, you can't keep that garage
Mhm.
because it's not appropriate for that location. I mean, I can't see where that would happen, but anyway.
You never know, right?
Exactly. So, you know, but if it's like a garage that wasn't a good location, why not leave it? You know, if the property owner wants it.
As long as they don't go too close or.
Well, see, that's the whole, right. That's where the township board and the planning commission says, yeah, there's, you know,
There's a lot.
would evaluate each request on its merits.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for explaining.
Okay, now we're up. Um. Oh, okay. So, let's see. Number one, under R1. In addition to any required escrow funds, the applicant will provide the township with a surety bond prior to the start of construction to ensure reclamation of the land upon abandonment or at the end of the life of the solar energy system. The bond shall be in an amount to be determined by the township as a condition of site plan approval. In other words, way up front before its construction begins. Number two, the value of the decommissioning surety bond shall be determined by a third-party financial consultant, engineer, or appropriate professional selected by the township and paid for by the developer based on the non-salvage value. Once the value is determined, it shall be updated on a periodic basis, not more than every 3 years. The applicant will provide the township with an acceptable surety bond as a condition for site plan approval. Number three, the surety bond is to be kept in effect until all of the properties are restored to their original condition. Such financial security shall be irrevocable and non-cancelable. if the owner of the solar energy system is financially unable to fulfill a decommissioning plan, the township may use the surety bond to complete the decommissioning plan. Then S. Approval time and extension. Once construction has begun, the construction cease for a period of 12 consecutive months, the special use approval and site plan approval shall be considered null and void.
Nuances.
Right. The site plan approvals shall remain in force as long as construction continues toward completion per the approved site plan timing. In other words, they'll give us a timing plan for the site plan, for the construction. And that's what that refers to. Because as part of the site plan, we ask them for, okay, what's your timing? How soon you're gonna do what and when. T, conditions and modifications. Any conditions and modifications recommended by the planning commission shall be recorded in the planning commission. Okay, after the township board's approval, at least 2 copies of the final. Right, okay, and then and shall be signed and dated by the township clerk and authorized representative. U is struck, has a strikeout on there. It's not, that's not supposed to be struck out. So. Let's see. The township may hire 1 or more, this is on inspections, at paragraph U. Okay, township may hire 1 or more consultants to assist with the inspections at the applicant's or project owner's expense. B, maintenance and repair. Okay, if the zoning administrator determines that a solar energy system fails to meet the requirement of this ordinance, the special use approval, or that it poses a safety hazard, the zoning administrator or his or her designee shall provide notice to the applicant of the safety hazard. We talk about what happens next. W, roads and access drives. Okay, should be repaired within 30 days.
The safety, I was just going back to the safety hazard being fixed within 7 days.
Well, where are you? I'm sorry.
It's paragraph before where it said, if it's a safety hazard, it should be fixed with a period not to exceed 7 days.
B,
Didn't we say if it's a safety hazard, it should be like more?
More
If it's a
what?
safety hazard, it should be done like in 24 hours. It's safety issue.
Safety.
Why would you say, yes, that thing's parking like that over at your house, but we'll get to her later. If it's a safety issue, we talk 24 hours on a safety issue.
Well, in that line of thought, okay, it says here, okay, provide evidence. If after a reasonable cure period time, 7 days, the safety hazards are not corrected, the applicant is entitled to a hearing before the township board. If the board, okay, so that's gonna take more days.
More time, yeah.
If the township board determines that safety hazard requires that a system must be shut down, applicant shall immediately shut down. Um, Okay,
Yeah, that might cover it there.
Well, you might want to, you change it instead of, if the township board determines that the safety hazard requires the SES must be shut down, could we change the township if at any time the township, who's our guy on the ground?
Tim,
Would it be Tim, or do we have a designated solar,
we could have, you know.
you know, if we have somebody designated, whether it be Tim or somebody else, if the township safety designee determines that the safety hazard requires that the SES may shut down, applicant must immediately shut it down. So
A
like,
situation like that, man, you know what I think is that we would probably call out our professional electrical engineer.
okay,
I mean, that's what we would do.
yeah,
But it's the discretion of the township board, but
But on the other hand, since this would be on property, is it not them that, they are the ones that are liable? They are the ones that are affected by the safety, not the township. It's not like,
That's
like
true.
the township, any people within, outside of the project. It's only the people inside the project, the workers, that would be
Yeah.
so
affected by
instead
the
of public
safety.
safety would be the number one question. In other words, what you're saying is if it's on site, it's their problem. What I hear Matt and everybody saying is that maybe when it might not just be on site, it might be a public issue, and you don't know.
Right.
So, yeah, particularly if you have cold fire department, they start blasting with water or something, they don't know. I agree with Nick, saying maybe we should just put 24 hours in there, and then you guys can, the township can call an emergency meeting
Right,
if it's serious enough. We don't know what we don't know when it comes to a safety issue with the solar panels.
right. Okay, I mean, I have no problems with 24 hours, you know.
27 to 24 hours.
Right. But, and like you said, you know, they would, the township board can convene an emergency meeting that day, you know. And decide, all depends on how severe the safety hazard is.
I think someone's gonna have to go to school on how to shut down a solar panel too. If all of a sudden the township says, okay, you're shutting down. Yeah, what's that mean?
You just unplug it. You just-
Yeah, where's the plug? We're gonna plug it, yeah.
Out front.
So I think we should understand that better too, when it occurs.
Okay. Roads, okay, shall be repaired within 30 days. Applicant shall abide by all county road commission requirements. New access drives within the solar energy system shall be designed to minimize the extent of soil disturbance, water runoff, and soil compaction on the premises. Any materials placed on the surface of existing soil for temporary roadways during construction or decommissioning shall be removed once the solar energy system is in operation or decommissioning is complete. X, emergency response plan. Written document outlining how the applicant or operator will respond to emergencies during construction, operation, and decommissioning of the project, including fire suppression, general emergency disaster response, police protection, and injuries to persons related to the project. Applicants shall provide copies of the plan to the applicable fire suppression, police protection, and emergency medical service providers. The applicant will be responsible for any expense related to training or additional equipment that may be needed to respond to emergencies. Why? Continuing obligations. Failure to keep any required financial security, escrow or surety bonds in full force and effect at all times while the solar energy system exists or is in place shall constitute a material and significant violation of the special use approval and this ordinance, and will subject the energy system applicant, owner, and operator to all remedies available to the township, including any enforcement action, civil action, request for injunctive relief, and revocation of the special use approval. Z, change in ownership. The sale, transfer, or conveyance of the entity granted by the special use permit shall not void the special use agreement. The township board shall be notified of any change in ownership. The new owner shall be required to maintain the existing escrow and surety bonds or provide a new escrow amount and surety bond as detailed in this ordinance to be used for decommissioning of the energy system. The applicant shall provide the township with copies of agreements made with those entities that will be purchasing the electrical production of the solar energy system project.
So where it says provide a new escrow account, blah, 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 for decommissioning of the SES. Well, is that only for decommissioning, or should that be for everything involved with the project? With the new owner? That's the way it's stated. It looks like they're only going to be, it's only going to be used for decommissioning.
Right.
Say expenses.
It does say to maintain the existing escrow or provide a new escrow account.
To be used for decommissioning.
The escrow.
Yeah, so what you're saying, Cheryl, is that if it's just used to decommission, what about the
Everything
ongoing every
else,
year? That's
This,
If they change ownership at year 5,
Mhm.
then they decommission at year 20, what about from year 5 to year 20?
right.
You change it to be used for decommissioning and other expenses required of the applicant, the original applicant. Would that refer back to our maintenance escrow and whatever pots of money we had?
I'll just put in there that the owner shall provide new surety bonds as spelled out in this ordinance.
Yeah,
And that covers all.
as detailed in this ordinance. Yeah, strike to be used for decommissioning of the
Yeah.
SES.
I agree.
To strike the whole.
No, just as, no,
To
just,
be-
yeah,
New surety bond as detailed in this ordinance. Township shall.
So what are we?
Surety bond,
getting rid of the word decommission.
we got, it got kind of specific and we're,
get rid of the decommissioning.
Okay.
To be used,
for-
decommissioning is out.
Right. Yeah, that covers everything because as detailed in this ordinance
Covers it.
covers everything that we talked about.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Double A. Complaint resolution. The solar energy applicant shall submit a detailed written complaint resolution process developed by the solar applicant to resolve complaints from the township board or the property owners or the residents concerning construction or operation of the solar energy system facility. The complaint resolution process must be approved by the township board as a condition of approval of the special use approval permit application. The township board shall appoint a 3-member complaint resolution committee to oversee and participate in all complaint resolution discussions or meetings between the property owner or resident and the solar energy system facility owner. The complaint resolution committee shall consist of a township board member, planning commission member, and qualified elector chosen by the township board from the community. In the event the solar energy system owner is determined at fault for a violation following the complaint resolution discussions or process, the owner shall be responsible for all costs incurred by the township in coming to a resolution, in addition to any other penalties for violations of the township zoning ordinance. This section is not a waiver of the township's authority to seek any relief at law or equity to abate such violations. The township board shall be kept apprised of all complaints and shall receive the report outlining the issues, the progress, and the resolution of each such complaint. Township board shall be authorized to enforce any resolution of each complaint. Any questions?
Definitions.
I will retype this,
That's good.
in which I will, I'll retype it and take out all the. Okay, the next, normally the next thing we would do would be to present this to a public hearing. And in which, so I would retype this and now, I guess normally I would retype this and I would present this as a clean copy without, so that, you know, people would not see, basically people would not see the strikeouts and they would not see the red.
You got 2 weeks to do it, John.
Mhm.
You got 2 weeks to do it.
19 days.
Okay. There's another side.
You don't have a lot to, I mean, it's pretty.
Another sidebar
Not a lot
discussion, just so you
changed.
know, the state also passed a rule as part of this, that they are required to give the township $2,000 per megawatt. So if you have a 50 megawatt, they're required to give you $100,000, which has nothing to do with the security and all the other things we talked about. That has to be used for public safety and at the discretion of the township, though.
Dave, question for you. Has the state said anything about lowering the price from $1,000 an acre down to $250 an acre?
No, I haven't heard anything about that at all.
For what?
Leasing this property out to from the farmers, instead of giving them $1,000 per acre. I heard mumblings that it might drop to $250 an acre.
Well, you can make 400 an acre doing soybeans. So
Right,
why they
so
wanna do
that's
that.
to disencourage them not to do it, that'd be a smart thing to do. And the thing about giving the hush money to these people that want it around their property, the X amount of dollars, they had to take that away too.
Yeah, that
That should be
should be,
legal, actually.
yeah, that's like bribery.
Right.
That's not right.
This $2,000 per megawatt there, is that operating or the size of the, or the, how, I just wonder what they said, well,
One-time deal.
we're, are we going to, this is a 50 megawatts thing, and this is what we're gonna do, or is it to say how much they're producing? What does that go by? Did they define that?
The 50 megawatt, it's not really truly defined. It's more than likely it's what it's producing now.
No.
So if it's producing 50 megawatts, then you get $2,000 per watt. megawatt.
Is that per year? What is
It's a
that?
one-time, they
One
never say
time.
yearly, it's a one-time deal.
Oh, it's one.
I don't want
So thank you for playing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're sorry we took away all your control. Here's the money.
Yeah, sorry about that.
And
taking
your
control
check
away.
in the mail.
Well, that's, then begs the question, you know, we tax the solar equipment as personal property. And that's where we make our big bucks, you know, from these projects. So it's now that this is a utility, are they exempt from taxes?
I don't think utilities are exempt. I think the equipment may be exempt, but the property still isn't. Is it?
Well, the
You
property,
know, I hate to say that, because I was on board of review for 10 years, and I can't remember.
yeah,
So,
What was that, law, I wanna call, it was a law that would exempt that, I thought,
if it's part of the public utility.
yeah. I can remember Kevin.
anyway, that's something that will have to
Good
be
question.
found
Yeah,
out.
good question.
That will probably also fall out through the state regulations.
So are we leaving the definitions in?
Yes,
Yes,
he's gonna take some of the ones out that go for everything across the board, correct? Is that what you said, John?
right, and put those in Article 2.
Yeah. Of the regular ordinance definitions, because it would apply to everything. The ones that just apply to.
For example,
solar
the
stuff.
definition of weeds, the definition of animal-friendly,
Pollinators and all
wildlife-friendly fencing, you know. Those are generic, you know, could apply to anybody in the township. Where something about solar panels, you know, definition
Yes.
should be in.
Yeah.
that. Would stay in.
Okay, so, okay, so I will retype this up and I will send it out to you guys and, yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay, now you went to the 24 hours if there was an emergency,
If it was a safety issue.
if it was a safety issue. Now, do they have to tell the township if they see something that's a safety issue in their determination is a safety issue and they see it, do they have to tell the township within a certain amount of time?
No.
No,
That's
because it'd be like a safety issue in your house. You know, you don't tell
We
anybody.
saw
about
it, we fixed it.
you know,
Yeah,
just
now if they
because-
saw it,
Just
then-
because you're gonna fall down the steps.
I mean, it could depend though what the safety issue was, I mean,
Right, and normally, most safety issues are gonna be internal to their project. So it'd be like, you know, driving down the road, you know, having a safety issue inside their plant, you know, they'll fix it, you know, because they don't want it.
Township's concerned is public safety issue, not a private safety issue.
but I mean, I guess if the stuff, if the solar panels are breaking, is that public because then it's going and contaminating the soil into
But it's-
water and possible like that?
That's a whole nother issue.
I mean,
That's.
I guess that's where you don't have no,
It's called
obviously you wouldn't have, but if something like that was happening,
Well, in here, we're allowed to inspect the premise, the project, and the solar panels. We also are allowed to inspect the maintenance records. So if all of a sudden, you know, we're going through the maintenance records and we say, oh, you had to fix, you had some broken solar arrays here that you fixed. You know, tell us about that, you know, what happened, you know, we can then get into that and because like you said,
contaminated soil, stuff like that.
and yes, that's gonna require an expert, somebody that we hire as an expert, and that's what we will do is, I would hope that we do, hire an expert that will then, you know, be our liaison to investigate these things or inspect the premise. And again, his expense, the cost of this expert would be paid by the developer.
Oh, the developer or the land?
Or the owner, you know, whoever's owns the project.
More specific, who's got the money in the bank that we're gonna be, that the township will take money out of.
Right, the escrow account.
Escrow account.
So if you're an adjacent property owner and you see something like 6 panels that are broken, I think I would come down to the township board and report it and let them start the ball rolling,
Yeah.
whatever needs to be done.
But how can you see it? We've got trees in front and you won't be able to see
Of
anything.
course not. I'm driving by it. So
Well, the trees are there, you can't see.
I haven't seen one yet that's covered up.
No,
Right.
I haven't either.
Exactly. So anyway, okay, we have no new business. Are we done discussing this? I think?
Yeah, I think we're,
Okay, good.
because we'd already had it, you know, we had it close other than making sure the
Right.
I's were dotted and T's were crossed.
So, comments from the commission members. Pat, anything you want to talk about? Sure.
Yes, there's a meeting on Monday. I saw it was on the email also from the Republican Party that there's a meeting on Monday. Reggie Miller is going to talk at the Belleville Library at 1:00. And it's open to the public. And I believe she might talk about the solar,
Yes,
the clean energy,
why she voted the way she did.
why she voted on the renewables, the way she did.
Did she
Wait,
vote
which
no?
way did she vote?
She voted no, correct?
No, she voted.
No, she voted yes.
Which one and who voted no in our district?
Bellino,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
The
so
Republican.
one.
and I don't know how Brooke did. I don't know if Brooke did or not, but
Oh, good.
But she only voted because they made changes for her. That's the only reason why she voted.
Of
So
course.
I guess there's,
She was bought.
She's Democrat. I mean, and all the Democrats voted straight across and all Republicans voted no.
so anyways, it's open to the public. Anyone that wants to go, I have little information that this is where it's at on Monday at 1:00. You can go several different sites. I'll just throw it out there.
Great, perfect. That's good. Okay. Yeah. Matt, do you have anything you want to talk about?
No, sir. When I moved out here in 2003 or 4, and Olga asked me to be a part of this commission, is when I first got the opportunity to work with you, John. And since that time, I've really come to respect your leadership and value you as a friend. And in the 18 years I've been on this commission, at least speak for myself, we're gonna miss you.
Thank you. Nick, anything?
Yeah, thank you for the 32 years?
35.
35 years to serve.
35 years, 3 months.
I'm not that old. I'm not even
Don't
35.
What is that counting?
I was a baby.
That's right, man.
I was a
I
baby.
felt like one, I guess.
Amanda was. Exactly.
No, thanks for your service. That's a long time.
That's why, exactly. It's been a long time, and it's time for me to move on to other things. So, and which I've already been tagged to, I just was recently elected to as a director of the Milan Senior Center. So now I got,
Wow.
so now
Very cool.
I got another
Congratulations.
responsibility. So, but unfortunately, that's a lot less
Yeah.
time consuming than this is. So anyway, great. Thank you. So public comment, 5 minutes per person. Any additional public comments? So that anybody, or have we talked ourselves out? Okay, Amanda, do you have anything you want to say?
No, nothing more.
Ooh, chocolate cake.
First time.
You know, guys.
For Thursday.
Yeah.
Yes, Thursday at the board. Okay, well, very good. So
No.
I guess at 8:48, we can adjourn.
Hit the gavel for the last
The
time.
last couple.
We are adjourned. We have forks. Oh, we do have forks. Look at
We don't have small plates, so we get bowls.
that. Okay, hey.
But let me
The
stop
last
the
couple months.
video.
It's fine, so.